Welcome to episode 258 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Law Sky. It's July 16, 1950, Rio de Janeiro, the Maracanã, Brazil against Uruguay. Not officially a final, but everybody knows what it is. Brazil need only a draw to become world champions. Uruguay must win. Nearly 174,000 people are officially inside the stadium, but there are probably more. The newspapers are ready. The speeches are ready. The medals are ready. Jules Rimet is ready with the trophy. Brazil score first. The stadium erupts. Then Uruguay equalize, and the stadium changes. Then Alcides Ghiggia runs down the right and shoots inside Barbosa's near post. Uruguay 2, Brazil 1, and the Maracanazo goes silent. Not quiet, but silent. This is the Maracanazo, one of football's great shocks, one of Brazil's great traumas, and Uruguay's last World Cup crown. But how did we get here? Start with South America. By 1950, this continent already has deep football history. CONMEBOL is founded in 1916, and the South American Championship, what becomes the Copa America, is the oldest continental national team competition in football. Uruguay are central from the beginning. They win the first South American Championship in 1916. They win Olympic gold in 1924, when Europe first fully understands that South American football is not exotic. It is elite. They win Olympic gold again in 1928, and then in 1930, at home in Montevideo, they win the first World Cup, beating Argentina 4-2 in the final. Uruguay are small, but their football is enormous. Brazil's story is different. Talent everywhere, but structure still uneven. Rio, Sao Paulo, state federations, club politics, selection arguments. Brazil win South American titles, of course. They produce Arthur Friedrich, Leonidas, Domingos da Guia, Cicinho, Ademir. But they do not yet have the World Cup. And then World War II interrupts the world. There is no World Cup in 1942, and no World Cup in 1946. Europe is damaged. South America is not untouched by the war, but as a football theater, it has not been broken in the same way. Leagues continue. Rivalries continue. Copa America continues. Clubs and national teams keep building. So when the World Cup returns in 1950, Brazil hosts, and Brazil builds a monument, the Maracanã, a concrete future, a stadium for a country trying to look modern, huge, and inevitable. The tournament format is strange. There is no one-off final. Instead, the last 4 teams play a final group: Brazil, Uruguay, Spain, and Sweden. Brazil destroys Sweden 7-1, then Spain 6-1. Uruguay draw with Spain and beat Sweden late. So the table gives us the perfect trap. Brazil need only a draw. Uruguay need to win. And almost nobody believes Uruguay can. Brazil are spectacular. Ademir is the tournament's top scorer. Cicinho is brilliant. Jair, Chico, Friaça. Brazil are fast, technical, and confident. Uruguay have talent too. Roque Maspoli in goal. Obdulio Varela, captain. Schiaffino, Miguez, and Ghiggia. But they are not the public's champions. They are the obstacle at Brazil's coronation. And Obdulio Varela knows it. The Brazilian papers have already printed the victory mood. Some stories say Varela threw newspapers on the dressing room floor and told his teammates not to look at the stands because the people outside were made of wood. Whether every word is exact hardly matters now. The meaning survived. Don't play the crowd. Play the 11 men. The referee is George Reader of England. Brazil wear white shirts with blue collars. Uruguay wear sky blue. At 3 p.m., the ball moves. Brazil attack. The Maracanã roars. Uruguay suffer, but survive. 0-0 at halftime. For Uruguay, that is life. For Brazil, it is impatience. Then 2nd minute after the break, Ademir slips the ball to Friaça. Friaça shoots across Maspoli. Brazil 1, Uruguay 0. Now the celebration begins, but it's too early. It's in the stands. It's on the radio. It's in the dignitary's box. This is the coronation. But Varela slows everything down. He walks into the goal, takes the ball, and argues about the play. Offside, language, delay, anything. The point is not the argument. The point is the pause. Cool the stadium. Cool the storm. Then, 66th minute. Ghiggia on the right. He beats Bigode. He crosses low. Juan Alberto Schiaffino arrives. Goal. Brazil 1, Uruguay won. Brazil are still champions with this score, but the feeling has changed. The Maracanã is no longer celebrating. It is waiting, and waiting is dangerous. 79th minute, Ghiggia again, right side again, Bigorra chasing again. Barbosa expects the cross, but Ghiggia shoots, near post. Goal. Uruguay 2, Brazil 1. The great line later attributed to Ghiggia is that only 3 people ever silenced the Maracanã with one gesture: the Pope, Frank Sinatra, and him. That is folklore, but folklore becomes folklore because it explains what facts cannot. 200,000 people had entered a party. Now they're standing silently inside a national wound. Brazil still have minutes, but they don't recover. They attack without belief. Uruguay defend without panic. Final whistle. Uruguay are world champions. Jules Rimet comes down with the trophy. No ceremony worthy of the moment. No triumphant public script. Just Rimet finding Varela and handing him the cup almost quietly. But so what? First, Uruguay. The joy is overwhelming, but also strangely restrained. Even Varela cannot celebrate fully. He later says he could not enjoy himself while so many Brazilians were crying. That is part of why he becomes more than a captain. He becomes Uruguay's moral memory. Ghiggia becomes the man of the impossible goal. Schiaffino becomes one of the great artists of the era. Maspoli becomes not only the goalkeeper of 1950, but later the coach of Uruguay's Mundialito victory in 1981. For Uruguay, this is the high water mark. They still win Copa America titles, and they win the 1981 Mundialito I just mentioned, beating Brazil 2-1 again at the Centenario. They reached World Cup semi-finals in 1954, 70, and 2010, but they never returned to a World Cup final again, never again this height. Then Brazil. The depression is immediate and enormous. Players are blamed. The coach Flavio Costa is blamed. And above all, Moacir Barbosa is blamed. Barbosa had been a great goalkeeper. After Ghiggia's goal, he becomes the scapegoat. The story follows him for the rest of his life. A mother is said to have pointed him out to a child as the man who made all Brazil cry. Barbosa later says that in Brazil, the maximum prison sentence is 30 years, but he had been serving one for 50. It is one of football's cruelest afterlives. Brazil also changes visually. The white shirt becomes cursed. In 1953, a competition produces the yellow shirt, green trim, blue shorts, and white socks, the Canarinho. The image of Brazil we now think was eternal was born, in part, from a defeat Brazil wanted to bury. Then comes Pelé. He is 9 years old in 1950. The famous story is that he sees his father cry and promises to win the World Cup for him. Maybe memory polished that line into myth, but the emotional truth is clear enough. In 1958, Brazil is 17. Brazil win the World Cup. Then 62. Then 70. The Maracanazo doesn't end Brazil. It forces Brazil to become Brazil. For the rest of the world, the shock confirms the World Cup is not a European possession, not a coronation machine, not a predictable ritual. A tiny country can walk into the biggest stadium in the world and ruin the script. That is why Maracanazo becomes a word. Not just a match, a category, a home certainty destroyed, a crowd silenced, a national myth punctured. And there are cousins. England 3, Hungary 6 at Wembley in 1953, the day England learned the world had passed it tactically. Hungary 7, England 1 in Budapest the next year, confirmation, not fluke. Germany 8, Denmark 0 in Breslau in 1937, a Danish humiliation and a German football myth. Fluminense 0, Deportivo Italia 1 in 1971, that little Maracanazo, when the Maracanã went quiet again. And of course, Brazil 1, Germany 7 in 2014, the Minerazo. Different stadium, different century, but same national question. How can this happen to us at home? Before we go, 3 things to take away from July 16, 1950. First, the Maracanazo was not a normal upset. Brazil needed only a draw, had already prepared the celebration, and scored first. That is why the reversal cut so deeply. Second, Uruguay won with more than courage. Varela managed the emotion of the stadium. Schiaffino gave them belief, and Ghiggia found the one shot nobody expected. Third, Brazil's trauma became fuel. Barbosa paid an unforgivable price. The white shirt disappeared. and 8 years later, Pelé's Brazil began the most famous national team dynasty the sport has ever seen. On this day in 1950, Uruguay beat Brazil 2-1 at the Maracanã. Friaça scored first, Schiaffino equalized, but Ghiggia silenced the stadium. And the World Cup learned that sometimes history is made not by noise, but by the moment noise dies. That is all for episode 258 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. I have a favor to ask of you. Please rate the show 5 stars so it can keep climbing the charts and we can welcome new listeners to OTD. Tomorrow, go to July 17, 1994, the first World Cup decided on penalties. See you then.